You don't have to be an expert to have an opinion, and parents of kids with challenging behaviors know this very well. One of the most stressful things that a parent can experience is having their parenting skills criticized, especially when their kid or teenager is behaving in an inappropriate or unacceptable way. And most people assume that if a child or teenager is having a challenging behavior, it must be because that child is spoiled, undisciplined, immature, or just a brat. And if you notice, a lot of these terms implicate both the parent and the child in the behavior. The kid is choosing to be bad, and the parent hasn't done or isn't doing enough to stop them from making that choice. But what if I told you that there was way more to the story? Before you judge a parent or a kid with challenging behaviors, you should understand that there are a lot of factors that go into behaviors. Those factors can make it look like a behavior is in someone's direct control, even though it isn't. And some parents know this and are choosing to respond to their children's behaviors in a way that's much more helpful for the kid. If someone sent you this video, it's because they want you to understand some things about their kid. This isn't meant to attack you for having an opinion or to make you feel bad for trying to help. Instead, we're just going to give you some information to help you better support parents of some amazing kids who happen to have some challenging behaviors. And we'll tell you why traditional responses like using more punishments aren't helpful to these kids, even if you feel like they were helpful for you as a kid or when you raised your own children. Over the past several years, evidence-based approaches have been developed to help children who have challenging behaviors. The approaches that Organ Behavior Consultation uses when working with families and here in our videos include the Neurobehavioral model and collaborative problem solving, or CPS. These approaches emphasize different assumptions about challenging behaviors than society has traditionally held. One of these assumptions is that challenging behaviors are most often not intentional, manipulative, or attention-seeking, but instead are the result of struggling cognitive skills, sometimes caused by how the person's brain is wired. Now, if the first assumption is correct, then the second assumption is that the best way to deal with challenging behaviors is to teach kids those skills that they're behind in, rather than using reward or punishment systems, and to adjust our expectations when needed, especially when the behavior is the result of a person's disability. Let me give you a quick explanation of cognitive skills. Who we are and how we act is determined in large part by how our brains work, and a big part of that is our cognitive skills. Cognitive skills are tasks our brains perform that help us in thinking. Cognitive skills help us to pay attention, make plans in our heads, adjust those plans when needed, resist impulses, communicate, regulate emotions, and problem solve, just to name a few. So how does this relate to kids or teenagers with challenging behaviors? Let's say that the only thing I've been taught to cook is a boiled egg. Then someone in charge tells me that I need to make eggs over easy. Now, it doesn't matter what they tell me. Try harder. If you don't do it, you'll be punished. Your little sister can do it, why can't you? If I don't know how to make eggs over easy, no amount of pressure or threats of punishment is going to change that. I need to learn the skills and have the tools before I can be expected to do it. When we start to think in these terms, we can understand how expecting a child to use skills that they don't have can lead to behaviors. Let's think about a kid who's melting down in the grocery store. I'm sure you've seen one of them once or twice. If you're looking at behaviors as products of struggling cognitive skills and other important factors, melting down makes a lot of sense. It takes a lot of different cognitive skills to make it through a trip to the grocery store. A kid or teen may have to pay attention and remember to stay with the cart. They may have to process and filter a bunch of sensory information, including bright lights, colors, and all of the people everywhere. They may have to cope with the frustration of asking to get something and being told no. They may have to deal with boredom while standing in line. Maybe going to the store was a last-minute decision, and now the child has to be flexible and adapt to a change in the plan. All of these require cognitive skills, and being asked to use more of them than you have can set the stage for a meltdown. So we move away from thinking, this child's such a brat, they need to pull it together, to this child is being expected to use a lot of different skills in a hard environment. We shift from thinking that they won't do what it takes to be successful to thinking that they can't be successful right now. And those are two very different things, won't versus can't. In fact, what we're talking about here can really apply to anyone. When we get upset by something, our brains have to use a lot of skills to keep calm and handle what's going on appropriately. But as adults with developed brains, we've had a lot more practice than kids, and frankly, it doesn't take much for us to go off the handle. In other words, various factors can improve or worsen our ability to handle our emotions, and no one is the exception to this. Whenever someone gets escalated or upset, whatever cognitive skills they have immediately drop, and this is true for all of us. This means that their brains have less ability than usual to process what's happening around them and to cope with their own emotions. During these times, it probably won't be effective to try to reason, threaten, punish, or really communicate at all with an escalated kid. An escalated child's brain simply can't handle it, and again, being asked to use a skill that you don't have is a recipe for further escalation. To help their kids who are angry and who have very few coping skills available, some parents choose not to respond to behaviors in traditional ways, like trying to talk the kid down, insisting that they follow directions right away, or counting to 3. Instead, the parents use responses that are meant to decrease how much we're demanding of the kid until they can calm down. This may look like the parent is ignoring behaviors, giving their kid time to think, or changing expectations to prevent a more challenging behavior. From your perspective, this might look like permissive behavior or lack of boundaries from the parent, but you may actually be seeing an alternative parenting strategy in action. But what about discipline? Will kids learn that they can just get away with bad behaviors if they're not punished for acting out? Many people feel that children need to experience punishment so that they learn that their actions have consequences. But by and large, kids already know what they're supposed to be doing. They want to do well, and they're trying their best. If I take away your TV privileges for a week, will that make you able to cook eggs over easy if you don't have the skills to do so? And that's why punishments don't work for kids with these types of challenging behaviors. Remember, behaviors are the results of not having a certain set of skills. Punishments don't teach those skills. Today, we've only talked to you about one set of factors that influence behaviors, cognitive skills. In reality, many more exist, such as mental health, trauma, disability, sensory issues, and medical issues, just to name a few. Kids need and deserve love, patience, kindness, and support, and they deserve it all the time, even if they're not behaving in a particularly lovable way. And the parents and caregivers of kids with challenging behaviors deserve the same understanding and support, not judgment or unsolicited advice. The next time you see someone you know parent in a way that you don't understand, remember that they may actually be responding in the best way for their child in that moment. I hope you found this video helpful in explaining why some parents respond to challenging behaviors in a non-traditional way. If you're interested in learning more, please check out the other videos on our channel. Thanks for watching.